I want you to think about a stressful situation that happened to you recently. Remember how your body felt during that stressful situation. Do you remember anything unusual going on in your body? Do you remember any effects it had on your brain, your ability to think or to deal with people? We all have different reactions to stress in the sense that we've been brought up differently, we've all had different life experiences, and there are different circumstances, right, that call up different kinds of stress for us. And these are all learned reactions that we acquire through life. But there are some things that happen to all of us during a high stress situation, and those are the things that are essentially in our DNA. Long-term stress leads to dysregulation. We reduce our mental capacity to do good work. We bring on unnecessary illness. And if you've been having long-term stress, you may already have been seeing some of the detriments from the stress response. Today, I'm going to talk about the physiology of stress, as well as scientifically proven practices that get us out of immediate physical and mental stress and turn down the damage of long-term stress. And I'm going to give you 3 actions that you can do almost anywhere that'll reduce the immediate stress response and build resilience along the way. This is LuciGabel, integrative leadership performance coach and trainer, author, speaker, and professor at the George Washington University School of Medicine grad program. And this is my podcast, Leadership, Life, Health, and Happiness. Well, hello there. It's been a little while since I recorded again. Last weekend, I did a workshop for the Johns Hopkins University alumni and the Women of Hopkins LA. And the workshop was about stress and resilience. The contents went extremely well with last episode, in the sense that in the last episode, I went over aspects of leadership optimal performance that affect your ability to lead, your ability to influence people and teams and lead organizations to success. And they're also the same aspects that influence your health all the way down to a cellular level, all the way down to your DNA. And in the last episode, I said that second part about the cellular level of the health and the DNA, I can't really get into in that one episode because that would just be too much to get into. But this episode, I can. So just a quick review of those 6 elements that affect your ability to lead and influence your health. We've got your leadership vision, your mindset, the way you communicate to yourself and others, rest and recovery, nutrition, and exercise, also known as movement. Some of these things might be obvious to you in terms of how they affect your health, and others might not. For example, I'm sure you already know a lot of the ways that exercise affects your health, and nutrition affects your health, and sleep and rest affects your health, all the way down to the cellular and genetic level. But what about those other things, that mindset and vision and communication? They go along with the stress and resilience piece. Stress has been shown to cause illness, to shorten people's lives. It actually affects your health right down to your DNA. But it's good to know that there are many things you can do about your stress. So why don't we start right now? According to research in the National Library of Medicine, stress is any physical or psychological stimuli that disrupts homeostasis. Homeostasis is a normal, balanced, optimal way of being. It's your body just, kind of taking care of itself and thriving. There are 2 kinds of stress, by the way. eustress and distress. Distress is what we normally think of when we say the word stress. It's to be scared or worried or angry about something. Eustress is the opposite of what we normally think, though. That's when we're excited or happy about an event. And that kind of excitement can still disrupt your balance. You can imagine, you're getting prepared for going on vacation, or you're getting promoted, or you've got people coming over. All of that is very exciting and it makes you happy, but it also produces a certain amount of stress. The stress response is also called fight-flight because it's our innate ability to survive. Think back to when we're hunters and cave dwellers. We survived by either fighting the danger or running from it. Later, we added the other two F words, freezing or fawning, which are two modern ways that we deal with stress today. Freezing, meaning, you don't know what to do or you just want to hide, so you don't do anything. And fawning is when you're just trying to please everyone, to make everyone happy, and that's kind of a protective mechanism. But fight or flight is in our DNA. Those that could run from the danger or fight the danger survived, and those that didn't survive, right? So those are our ancestors, and their DNA was passed on to us, and it's strongly embedded in our genes today, that fight-flight response. And this is important for you to think of and to remember because oftentimes we try not to have it, or we get angry at ourselves from having a stress response when it's just normal, it's natural. And sometimes just knowing that it's a natural response, just knowing that it's a genetic propensity is helpful enough for you to take the pressure off yourself. Technically, the stress response is the human's response to conserve and maintain the necessary activities of survival and reduce activities unnecessary for survival. I want you to think about a stressful situation that happened to you recently. Now, remember how your body felt during that stressful situation. Do you remember anything unusual going on in your body? Do you remember any effects it had on your brain, your ability to think, or to deal with people? I want you to keep that recent stressful situation in your mind as I go through the physiological response to stress. And let's see if any of these sound familiar. Now, we all have different reactions to stress in the sense that we've been brought up differently, we've all had different life experiences, and there are different circumstances, right, that call up different kinds of stress for us. And these are all learned reactions that we acquire through life. But there are some things that happen to all of us during a high stress situation, and those are the things that are essentially in our DNA. During the stress response, every little bit of energy is shunted to the right areas for your survival, for you to protect yourself and get out of danger. Here's how it goes. Our brain is the first to know. Norepinephrine and epinephrine are released from the brain, and norepinephrine elevates in the brain, and we become extremely focused and alert. We get tunnel vision, we get funnel hearing, and our brain dials in on that stressful circumstance. So you ever notice when you're stressed, you're kind of distracted? If you're trying to do something else besides work on that stressful situation, it's hard to focus. You might find yourself less capable. And actually, during the stress response, our higher level thinking goes offline. We can't be our best at problem solving or decision making. We can't be creative and innovative and have good ideas. It's hard to be patient and kind and generous. It's hard to be present and listen effectively to people. Sometimes we can't even speak well. We get more irritable, more jumpy, more easily angered, more easily sad. Basically, we aren't able to be our best self. And that's in the brain. In the body, some of these things you might recognize. We have an increased heart rate. Our heart pumps stronger. Our breathing rate changes. It could be faster or shallower or both. We also have an increased retention of sodium that helps to increase our blood pressure. There's an increased blood flow to your muscles so that they're ready to fight or run, and your muscles tense up to guard against injury. Blood sugar rises. We have reduced insulin. We have reduced insulin sensitivity, and there's an increase in production of glucose by the liver and the muscles. Our immune system and our inflammatory response suppresses. We get reduced blood flow to the digestive organs. We get a reduced absorption of nutrients. Our digestion slows. Our reproductive system turns way down. We don't produce reproductive cells. We get a lowered sexual desire, and our ability to get pregnant is reduced. And there's a reduced blood flow to your skin. Wound healing goes down. Collagen synthesis goes down. Short term, this is not a problem, and it's powerfully effective. Every little bit of energy is shunted to the right areas for your survival, for you to protect yourself and get out of danger. But long term, this leads to dysregulation. We reduce our mental capacity to do good work. We bring on unnecessary illness, and we reduce our lifespan. If you've been having long-term stress, you may already have been seeing some of the detriments from the stress response. The stress response happens whether danger is physical or in our mind. If a car is coming, for example, it helps you get out of the way. If you think a car is coming, you might get out of the way even faster, right? Before it even gets to turn the corner. So it works. It works well. Yet these days, we have much more mental stress than physical. Let's say you're going to have a difficult meeting in 5 minutes, or you're thinking about potential negative outcomes of a project that you're working on that's due in several months. Do we need fight flight for that? Most likely not, right? And yet, whether it's happening to you physically or you're just thinking about it, your brain and body are reacting in the way they know how. So, based on the physiology that we just talked about, you're probably making the connection that when we have mental stress, we don't want to have this physiological response going on for too long. So, how do we reduce that stress response when it's unnecessary? Well, the good news is that there are scientifically proven short and long-term solutions that reduce the detriments of the stress response with time that you can use to get out from under stress immediately and reduce the detriments of long-term stress. And with practice, we get better at controlling it when we don't need it. And therefore, we build resilience along the way. So I'm going to give you 3 actions that you can do almost anywhere that'll reduce the immediate stress response and turn down your stress short term. But first, I want to let you know, if you would like my help in making small changes to your diet that affect your leadership optimal performance and gain a high performance edge with healthy food habits, you might like my book, Eat to Lead. I'm hosting an 8-week program based on the book this spring, and you can find both at eattolead.com. And now, let's get into your actionable steps against stress. So, 3 actions that you can do almost anywhere that'll reduce the immediate stress response. And that would be purposefully doing all of the reverse of what the stress response dictates. So first one is shift your sense of focus. Get distracted. And you can think about it as look, listen, and feel. Use your sense of vision to look around the room. Let something that you enjoy looking at capture your eyes and really look at it. Get into the details. You can also use your sense of sound to listen to the sounds around you. And then use your sense of feeling. Feel your body in the chair or on the floor or standing, and feel your breath. Look, listen, and feel. And then second one is purposefully slow your breathing. Take long, deep breaths and let your abdomen expand with the inhales, because that'll tell your body that everything is okay. And when we relax our body, these calming techniques will get your higher level thinking back online. And this third one is a key factor of dealing with your stress, but we can't do it when we're under pressure. So after you've calmed your body, then address your self-communication. Remember that stressful situation you brought up earlier? You can use it as an example to practice now. Basically, think about what you were saying to yourself that might have caused more stress than necessary. Another question to ask yourself is, what is the fear here? What am I afraid of? And then, is it real? Because sometimes we're reacting to fear and we don't look at it as to whether or not that's a worthy fear to think about. And I'm not asking you to do this so that you can beat yourself up, but it's just as an exercise to practice for the next time. So just notice when the next time comes, if you're exaggerating or assuming things, if you're thinking things that aren't necessarily real, but you're just imagining that it's possible. It helps for a minute or two just to know, okay, these are the possible dangers that I might have to deal with, if they are at all possible. And then make a plan for how to get out of that danger, and then put them down. And finally, flip the script. Imagine the best case scenario that could happen from this situation. Go way out in your imagination. No holds barred. Run a movie in your head. Be like a child daydreaming about going to the amusement park or getting a toy. Except this is you as an adult daydreaming about best case scenarios. And I've talked about why this is so important to practice this visualization. I've talked about it in several other episodes in terms of mental health and in terms of your ability to be a leader and be creative and make decisions and have a vision for yourself and for your teams and your company. So I'll put a list of the other episodes down below if you want to listen into a little bit more about why that's important. But you can probably see that in the immediate time frame, it helps you to get out of that stress pattern and get into a more relaxed, happy, positive pattern. And that right there shifts your stress response. And at the end of episode 20 is a 5-minute version of this exercise where I lead you through the looking, the listening, the breathing, and the feeling. So if you ever want to just do that with me, keep that podcast episode bookmarked and go to it whenever you want. It just takes a few times to practice with someone else to remember how to do it on your own, but a few times with someone else is really helpful. So these last 3 things we just talked about, the 3 actions that you can do anywhere, shifting your sense of focus, purposefully slowing the breaths, and addressing your self-communication. These 3 things are going to take you out of the stress response and immediately reduce or stop those physiological responses from happening that are detrimental for you to have long term. And as you practice them over and over again, they're going to start to shift how you think and deal with mental stressors. You're going to be able to get out of fight flight faster and faster. Sometimes you might not even go into that fight flight. And this is how we build resilience. And if you go ahead and listen to episode 20 now, you'll have a bigger picture of how these 6 aspects not only affect your leadership, but also affect your health. If you liked this episode, give it a like or 5 stars, and let me know what this episode made you think about and what you want to talk about next time in the comments. This is LuciGabel. I'll talk to you next time.